what I thought it might be good to do, if you guys are up for it, the panel that is, to introduce yourselves. I thought you guys would put in some much better words than I possibly ever could. So with that said, I'll come to you guys in order, if that's okay. And just a snippet, a kind of teaser for who you are, what you're about, why you're here this evening, and then we'll get fired into the main event. And there's no particular order, so I'm just going to go by my screen. I'll come to you, Roxy, first, if that's okay. And then I'll come to you, Jeremy, and then we'll come to you, Karis, and we'll get started. Over to you, Roxy.
Cool, thank you, Dak. Hi, good evening, everyone. Very exciting to have international people on the call as well. So yeah, happy Thanksgiving for our Texas friend. So yeah, my name's Roxy. I work as a sustainability manager for Cafe Direct. Cafe Direct is a fair trade, really old school fair trade social enterprise that will be running for 30 years next year. And we source fair trade coffee, tea and cocoa from about 25 co-ops across the world. But aside from that, I'm also a freelancer in my side hustles. And I work as a sustainability consultant, so kind of communicating, for mission-led businesses, which often are startups or social enterprises. So I come with two hats tonight, but yeah, very happy to be here. Thank you, Dak.
That's it, no problem at all. Great to have you, Roxy. Over to you, Jeremy.
So yeah, Jeremy, thanks very much for having me this evening. I am the founder of Power of Life. We are a power bank, wireless charger and tree-free notepad company. For every product that we sell, we have a gift that we give to a child in a developing country. For our power products, it's a free solar light, which is literally life-changing. It's like turning on a light at home for the first time ever for the families that receive them. And for our notepads, we gift school jotters for kids in the partner schools that we work with.
That's it. Amazing. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Great to have you as well.
Pleasure to be
here. And Karis, again, over to you.
Thank you. I'm Karis. I'm co-founder of Social Stories Club, and we make socially conscious gifts. So every single product inside tells an amazing story of social impact. I also run the Edinburgh Innovation Startup Summer Accelerator, and we've just finished as well a Power Her Up program to empower women who are starting their own businesses and are at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey to overcome challenges that are unique to women.
Fantastic, amazing. Thanks so much, guys. So much to unpack as well, and thank you for being here. Over to you, Janet.
That was incredible. Dak, I'm not putting any pressure on you, but for Christmas this year, I would love a gift from each of these organizations. And if for Cafe Direct you want to get me lots, then feel free. But yeah, you heard it here first, everyone. Nonetheless, just getting straight in there. Just to get us started, I'd love to hear from each and every single one of you, and we can start with yourself, Jeremy, on exactly where your passion for impact came from. So, where did you start thinking in the business that I want to create, I wanted to have this lasting impact and legacy?
Oh, amazing. Love this question. So part of the origin story for the business was taking, I studied architecture at uni, wanted to design for the poor, not the rich, and took that research out of the classroom into the field in Senegal during my master's year. So with nothing more than the phone number for a friend of a friend of a friend, CEO of a credit union that someone said would be useful for us to go and speak to, we bundled into a pickup truck, headed up north, and lived off grid for the best part of a month with subsistence farmers. So we were drinking their tea and the water, eating the food, getting really, really ill as a result. But what it did do was give us a unique insight into daily life, the challenges. And I guess, that's where the passion for creating the impact came from. It was seeing the challenge of living in complete darkness when the sun goes down, how it impacts children disproportionately. A lack of access to light means that it's dangerous to walk home at night. You can't do your homework. It affects your grades. So yeah, the passion, the origin story, it starts on the ground with our subsistence farmers that we're continuing to work with now.
I love that so much, and very clearly it brings more meaning to your work on a day-to-day basis when you can very tangibly remember and feel exactly why you're doing what you're doing. So absolutely incredible. Over to you now, please, Karis, to tell us about why you decided.
My first ever experience of getting involved in this field was when I was about 9 years old. We used to go to, for my whole childhood, I went to this place where it was a community centre for children, and the man who ran it ran a charity, and the charity helped to educate children in Ethiopia who were really struggling with the famine. And I remember he told me all about the work he was doing over there, and I just bawled my eyes out. I was so moved, and it was my first experience at such a young age, just realising, I mean, there's a big wide world out there, and I really wanted to do something about it. So I went to my head teacher, and we held a cake sale. And I remember I did my first ever public speech in front of my whole school. I had this paper that I was shaking in my hand. I was so nervous. And I asked everyone to bring cakes so we could sell them and then we could raise money. And we did, and we raised £200, which was a phenomenal amount of money to me at the age of 9. And we were able to get desks for a whole school for the children who didn't have any desks and were working on the floor. I think that was for me where the seed was really sowed, and it started that I realised I could make a difference. And I didn't know how. I just got some desks for a school, but I remember thinking I can make a difference, and a bigger difference with my life.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Karis. And over to yourself, please, Roxy.
Wow, yeah. So I'm with this question. I'm framing it in terms of Cafe Direct, and Cafe Direct's also got quite an impactful origin story because it came out of well, you got to step back a little bit. So coffee is the second most traded commodity on the global stock market after oil, and so in the late 1980s, early 90s, what happened was there's a massive crash, and that affected just suddenly all, hundreds of thousands of smallholder growers that were relying on coffee as part of their income. And that just put a lot of people literally into destitution pretty much overnight. So it had such a drastic impact that 4 UK charities, some of whom you'll know, so Oxfam, Tradecraft, Equal Exchange, and Twin, they formed Cafe Direct. And the way that they did it as a social enterprise was to buy coffee and sell it through Oxfam shops. And then once the coffee had been sold, literally give the money back to the coffee co-ops. And it was the kind of very early days of direct trade, which is the name obviously of Cafe Direct, where it comes from. And so from that, the social enterprise mission of Cafe Direct was kind of founded and continues to be guarded by the Guardian Share Committee, which sit alongside our board. So it's, and growers sit on this committee too. So a bit like Jeremy's kind of origin story there as well. It's very much grower led and sort of taking a risk based on those circumstances.
That's it. Thank you, everyone. And what really strikes me is just how powerful the stories are. And actually, and to kind of use a bit of a pun from Social Stories Club, I'll be keen to come back to storytelling later. But I wanted to ask you all about your perspective on starting. And the reason I'm asking this is, especially with sustainability, with social goods, I see a lot of people who are very passionate, who want to make a difference, but are scared to take the first step. So I'd love to hear from all of you, actually, if that's okay, about what would be your advice for somebody who wants to make a difference, who's maybe found a problem, maybe a solution potentially, but are nervous about making the change. So I'll come to you, Karis, first, if that's okay, and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I was quite lucky because of by accident, I found Ayush, my co-founder, who wanted to join me on the journey. And I didn't realise, but that's the biggest advice is I wouldn't go it alone. Find someone else, someone who has the skills that you may not, and that you perfectly complement each other. It's so much easier and more rewarding sharing this journey. And I didn't realize, how valuable that was at the time, but that was the best decision I made, and that would be my advice. Find someone else who's equally as passionate, shares the same values.
That's it. Excellent. That's fantastic. Thanks, Karis. And we'll come to you, Jeremy, next.
Sure. I think don't be afraid to fail. I think for us, it's certainly been part of the journey, is that you need to be prepared to learn. You need to be prepared to adapt and to pivot. And I've heard, I don't know, it's Sir Jim McCall, I think, who I've heard speak about this, where it's like, yeah, failure is the way you would define it, but just don't have that as part of your vocabulary. There are opportunities to learn. There are opportunities to, gain the lessons from what happened. But yeah, you need to have the courage. You need to jump in with both feet. But certainly our story it wasn't straightforward. It took a lot of learning. It took a fair few failures. And I think, from the outside in, there's always that thing with a startup where the success can maybe look like it happened overnight. But for us, we're 8 years at this point, and it only feels now like we're finding market fit. So yeah, be prepared to fail, jump in with both feet. And I guess the last one would be, it's going to take longer than you think, or certainly it did for us.
Very true indeed. Yeah, I'd love to come back to these, actually. It's such an interesting topic, actually. Long-term thinking, that's for sure. I'd love to hear from you as well, because I know for you it's probably more of a freelancer perspective. But what's your kind of thoughts on somebody who really wants to make a change, who's maybe in a different career entirely? What would you say to somebody who wants to help but is nervous to change?
This obviously sounds like a plug for Cafe Direct. I would say drink coffee. Both in that is just my day to day. And if you're going to do a small thing, I feel like making yourself coffee or your beverage of choice is very doable. I read something recently, it's a bit of a segue, from TikTok. And those of you that have joined us just before you all joined, Ira's oversharing my new sense of lockdown fandom for TikToks. But I maintain it because on TikTok, I did not think I'd be on the panel citing TikTok, but there we go. This is the evolution of the evening. On TikTok, there was a whole thing around micro habits, and it seemed to like break things down very, very kind of manageably, as simple as like, write down 3 things that you think you can do today that will help, and I think just sort of psychologically starting, whether it's having coffee or just doing something that's a little bit active, sets that path up. Possibly more usefully, I would say that in my experience, bear in mind that, you won't know this obviously until I tell you, but years ago I persuaded a soft toy manufacturing company to make me a 4-foot toy koala because I wanted to raise money for a children's charity in Australia. It just seemed like a good idea, and I literally went through the phone book back in the day and like rung every single number until somebody was like, yeah, okay, we like that idea. And I think for me, whether you go it alone or you go it with people, I think you can attract the sort of right people you need at different times if it's a kind of good idea. That's my sense of things. But I don't know. Discuss. I don't know when we're discussing it.
That's an awesome point, Watson. No, I think that sums up perfectly, because I think I'm quite a visual person sometimes. People almost see it's like, well, I'm off the screen, which I guess proves the point. It's a huge jump to take. I like that a lot, actually. Thank you.
Lovely. I'd like now just to get a bit into the going on of this year, and just again really quickly start with yourself, Roxy. Have you had to adapt your social mission, again more from a Cafe Direct perspective, but feel free to bring in your freelancer experience too? Have you had to adapt your social mission as a result of the major going on this year, and have you actually had to change it, and has it changed it at all?
Yes is the short answer. We have had to pivot slightly. So I actually only went in-house to Cafe Direct in March, which honestly, as a freelancer, was quite fortunate given the circumstances. But in terms of Cafe Direct's business model, 80% of our model is retail. So we sell through the big supermarkets like the Cooperative, who are very pro fair trade, and Sainsbury's and Tesco's and so on, Waitrose. Sorry, I'm being distracted by the coffee questions, but I will get to them. And we also have food service, and food service is through leisure centres, little cafes, or the independents, all that sort of thing. And of course, during the lockdowns, particularly in March, we did see a challenge. Like, it was very, very challenging for that area of the business. So in terms of pivoting, we've kind of restructured that side of the business. And I think we were fortunate that we were just weighted more in the retail space than we were food service. But I just wanted to say two more things about that. One is that it was a lovely opportunity, and we haven't really communicated this externally, even though it's my job to. We haven't about supporting our kind of local community with coffee donations through hospitals and hospices and those kinds of charities. So and brilliant food charities this year as well, like the Trussell Trust have done amazing work. That's just, anyway, by the by. And also, I think it's something around supply chain. Like, we were in a really good position because we had a lot of stock already in the UK. And that meant, because of the way we do business, we pay growers within a 30-day payment term, whereas other coffee companies, I won't name names, that can take up to 365 days to pay, for example, on receipt of goods. So you begin to see like the disparity there. And so we've been able to sort of maintain that supply, which is so crucial for the growers that we buy from. It's probably enough on that from me.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Roxy. And I'll come to yourself, please, Jeremy, and then we'll go to Karis afterwards.
I think much like we've heard from Roxy there, it's been a tough year for sure. I think a lot of our market, well, like 100% of our market just disappeared overnight with the lockdown. Our main route to market is corporate gifting, B2B. We brand our products for corporates. And a large part of that was for events teams, so in-person events, and these are given away as in goodie bags and whatnot. So for us, it was pretty brutal, pretty painful, and quite a steep cliff. Like, it was a cliff edge that came very, very suddenly. But I guess, how have we adapted? We furloughed the team over the summer and came back stronger than ever, I would say. We've come back with 2 new products. First one's the wireless charger for that work from home market that I think a lot of people are currently still going through, and I think we'll probably be going through most of 2021 as well. And we've also brought to market the new Notepad product, which again, it's sort of responding to what we know corporates are buying, what they're currently in the market for. So I wouldn't say that we've not necessarily adapted our social purpose or the social mission. We're still in the business, in the game, to empower kids with lights and kids with jotters. So the social part has remained largely the same, but how we are trying to drum up business, biz dev, and the products that we're now selling, of course we've had to adapt. And we're hopeful, fingers crossed, touch wood, that the market reappears going into 2021.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And over to yourself, please, Karis.
Yes, so when the pandemic hit, it was very much, we need to serve our customers and we need to serve the social enterprises. So we did research to see what we could do and where we could help out. And it was the smallest social enterprises who were really struggling, the ones who didn't have a premises and they couldn't benefit from the government schemes out there. And they had a big drop in sales, similar to what Jeremy was just discussing. And so we wanted to find a way to really shine a light on these brands and give them a bit of a boost. So we launched a crowdfunder, and we had a special gift box which was full of products from the smallest social enterprises. And some barriers that these social enterprises have are they may only be able to produce 20, and and they may need a month to produce 20 of a product. And so by doing this crowdfunder, pre-ordering in advance, every box being a little bit different, working around the social enterprises, we were able to sell just under 100 of these, which are due to be dispatched in the next 2 weeks. And we've been working closely with the social enterprises to give them a little boost. So that's really where a lot of our focus has been on, is on the small social enterprises as well, and just serving our customers in the best way that we can. We've had similar experience to Jeremy has, so we've had to see what we can create. So we noticed that all our customers wanted to connect with their family that they couldn't connect with due to lockdown. So we created special boxes which can help people connect and give virtual hugs. So that was our hug in a box.
I love that so much, Caris, and for Social Stories Club as well. And actually, at a time where it would be easy for organizations like yours to, go further away from the social aspect of things because it might be more costly, or because for whatever reason it actually seems like you've gone even deeper into that and found even more of a niche there. And it's something that I absolutely love. And I guess going into the next part of things now, one of the things, about finding or, being more socially conscious when we're shopping is about how we can find these businesses and these products. And we've even got a question from Nick Nick, I'm really glad that you were brave enough to come out and, mention the big retailer that we're all trying to avoid and everything else. But yeah, hands up myself too. Again, to start with yourself straight away, Caris, how can we, for Joe Public, for example, more easily find some of the more socially responsible organizations like yours, like the ones that go into your gift boxes, to actually help us as individuals support these more?
Yes, so there's the Big Issue shop, which has a shop full of lots of social enterprise products. Also, there's lots of local Facebook groups. If you type in, for example, Edinburgh Social Enterprise, there's lots of different networks, and you can find all of these companies and social enterprises are posting on them, and you can get involved. Some might want volunteering positions, some might just be advertising the products. And Christmas is coming up, of course, so you can support social enterprises this Christmas. And this was really why we came about, was because of this problem. We realized there were all these amazing social enterprises out there, and I hadn't heard of social enterprise until this point. And I thought, if there's all these amazing social enterprises doing these wonderful products, why does nobody know about them? When I thought it was the best idea in the world. If I can eat a chocolate bar and support social causes, drink some Cafe Direct hot chocolate and support social cause, what better way is there to give back? So by buying a gift box with all these products, we thought you could introduce someone to this amazing world where you can give back by drinking hot chocolate.
Excellent. And Roxy, I can see that you're starting to drop some names in the chat as well. Tell us more.
Well, actually, yeah, just a little shout out. Liv Frankly is run by a friend of mine. He's a journalist, is her background, and she's really committed to communicating about brands that aren't using greenwashing. That genuinely she does the due diligence as a journalist and kind of finds out the stories behind the brands. So that's a really good hub because it breaks things down in terms of like trends, which is useful for gifting. I'd also recommend, as just a segue, but Truva is pretty good. It brings together lots of independent brands, which amongst them are probably sourcing social enterprise. Oxfam shops, also a good place for lots of social enterprise type gifting. And what was I going to say? Amazon. So controversial, Nick, I know, but Amazon have recently, just as in like last 2 weeks, have brought out something called the Climate Pledge. And you'll start seeing on Amazon icons that say Climate Pledge and a drop-down box, and it'll explain why that particular product has got a Climate Pledge icon. So when you upload your SKUs onto Amazon, which Cafe Direct is sold on Amazon too, it goes through like a barcode system, and because we're Fairtrade certified, we automatically get this icon, but other brands will too. So you are shopping on Amazon and you don't want to feel too guilty about it, I would suggest filtering via the climate pledge icon as an option. But also, obviously, Social Enterprise UK has a directory of all the social enterprises, and there are heaps and heaps of ones that, you know, will be doing great stuff to look at.
Oh, lovely. Thank you for that. And I know, even coming back to the next question, we do have an element of convenience in there, and us wanting or needing the product that we've ordered tomorrow or even the next day, which sometimes some organizations just can't do, and rightly so, as part of their practices, if they're small batch made, or the really lovely things that, you know, make us want to use them. So I guess it might also be about us as consumers having that slight mindset shift that says, if I don't get this product in 2 days' time, like, that's okay. I will still go and try and shop with some of these brands. Jeremy, have you got anything you'd like to add around how we can find some of these and also be a bit less convenient focused?
Right, sure. Maybe controversial, but I'll start with a plug for a friend as well. Obviously, Social Stories Club, massive fan of Karis and Ayush. So if you're in the market, definitely. And we've got Coffee Direct in the house. I'm in the shed, but we buy from both of you. Friend of mine though, Jamie, down in London, his company is Social Supermarket. So it's, I mean, we'll try and avoid the A word, but he wants to try and be the Amazon of social enterprise products, and there's a ton of them on there, including us. So yeah, Social Supermarket. Big shout out to Jamie. He's been really kind to us. The Amazon question one, I think it's an interesting one, right? Because like we're listed on there, or we have been. And I think, like, when I was arguing with my sister-in-law, who insisted that for Secret Santa we weren't allowed to buy on Amazon, but we were to use Etsy, which incidentally is another multi-billion-dollar US website, right? I mean, yeah, I don't know. The research was telling me that most third-party sellers on Amazon are 1, 2, 3-man bands. They are somewhat local. We know that micro enterprises are the backbone of the British economy. And you only need to look at Power Life, who, I mean, we're not currently trading on Amazon, but we have done in the past. And for the likes of us, it's super convenient. Like, we can ship our stock in bulk, and Amazon does all the distribution and fulfillment for us. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, listen, COVID, we've done a lot of Amazon shopping in the house, and I know that we could be doing better. I do find it massively frustrating that, for example, in the supermarket, I don't like getting my chicken vacuum packed in plastic, but how else can I get it? You know, I think there are just barriers that are really tough as a consumer. Like, I know I don't want my meat vacuum packed in plastic, but there's not much other option to get it conveniently. But yeah, socialsupermarket.org. Thanks for the link, Nick. Yeah, plug out to them.
Lovely. I love this. And yes, please, no apologies whatsoever if you're plugging your own stuff or stuff of your friends and families. And I think what I'm taking from this is we need to be a bit more intentional if we truly do want to try and support some of these social enterprises and products. And obviously that intentionality takes time. It takes a bit more money, and, you know, we should do all the hard things. Over to yourself now, Dec. I'll give everyone a break from me.
No, so thanks, Janet. So there's a few themes I picked up from your guys' answers. Jeremy, I really liked what you said actually about the chicken, not because it was chicken, but it just shows that it's never perfect, right? You know, you guys are real pioneers, you're leaders, you're experts in this space. And like you said, Jeremy, it's really hard to always find conscious choices. Now, what I want to come back to, and I know we're mentioning our friends, your friends doing amazing work. I want to come to the more, I don't want to say stubborn, but maybe less engaged friends and family who are more reluctant to make a change. So this will be a question for all of you guys, if that's okay. How do you approach persuading people to be more conscious if they are stubborn? So I'll come to you, Karis, first, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think once you try some social enterprise products and you learn their stories, it's so heartwarming knowing how easy it is to give back every single day. So like I said before, with the hot chocolate, you have your hot chocolate in the morning and it makes you feel good knowing, all the good that's coming from it. When you have a bar of soap and it's empowering individuals who have disabilities, it makes you feel good. So it is quite convenient, because if you can give back with what you're already doing anyway, you're already having hot chocolate, coffee, you're already eating biscuits, you're already using soap, and so it's the simplest way. But there's also, I recommend with friends and family, if you're struggling to get someone to start with something really small, maybe giving them a reusable bag, giving them a reusable water bottle, a really small swap that they can make, and just encouraging them to use that. And once they start using that, then it triggers something, then you introduce the next thing and the next thing, and you can just take it from there, just small steps at the start.
I like it a lot, guys. Awesome. Okay. What do you think, Jeremy? What's your approach, your technique?
I love Karis's enthusiasm. I think for me, I'm like, I don't know. I like to think that the friends I have don't need much convincing that, we should use our money wisely and buy socially. Don't know. I think my answer, I love Karis's enthusiasm. I think I don't spend a lot of time trying to convince the unconvincible, right? Like, it's part of the biz dev as well, like hunting those to get to the S's. I think there's only so much time and effort that me as an individual taking up the mind space, trying to convince people to do the right thing. I don't know. I think they're people not using reusable bags. I think they're in the minority at this point. I think you would really have to be living under a rock to realize that single-use plastic and the like is terrible for the planet. So I don't know. Yeah, I think if I wish I had Karis's enthusiasm, but I tend not to bother trying to convince people to do the right thing,
No, it's a really good angle on it, Jeremy. And yeah, I hope to kind of steal a marketing, it's not jargon, I guess, but early adopters, and then what's it, the kind of, there's a word for it,
the bell curve. No, you're 100%. I think it's Gary V for me though. He's like, the haters are always going to hate, right? There's no point trying to convince people they can't be turned.
It's a good point. God, consider the energy, your energy as well. Awesome, man.
Downer.
Yeah, no, it's good. I like that. What do you think, Watsy? What's your take on it?
Obviously, personally, I'm trying to cultivate myself as a TikTok influencer, and that way, reaching the masses to influence. No, obviously, I'm joking. I think, from my experience, having worked with Divine Chocolate, and obviously Cafe Direct and other ethical brands, Chocolate and Love, and so on. There seems to be like a foodie theme. I think food is a great way. Most people, enjoy luxuries, little luxuries that you get in terms of coffee and chocolate. Obviously, a recurring theme here. So I would say a Cafe Direct subscription, gift subscription would probably win over even the most ardent capitalists. And slight non-joking aside, I think it's about people's engagement with like the quality of the product first, and probably elaborating slightly on Karis's point that someone just enjoys that experience anyway. They might then become a little bit more interested in the story in the background, but we're not under any delusion that all of Cafe Direct's supporters and consumers understand our background, even though that we're a social enterprise. When we're being bought in Waitrose, for example, we're seen on the shelves next to our competitors, and if it looks nice, if it's the right kind of coffee flavor, the right kind of descriptors, whatever it is, that is essentially I think what's creating that kind of change. And then it becomes mainstream, then it becomes convenient, and then you adopt those habits, I think, over time. So be an influencer is my summary takeaway from that.
Awesome, I love it. TikTok, coffee, what's not to like? So, I'll let Johnny, I know you've got a question, Janet, so I was going to introduce your question, but I'll just let you.
No worries at all. Thank you. And I think I'd like to point this one specifically at yourself, Karis, and it's around waste due to Christmas shopping in general, just, regardless of the topic of the conversation. And it's about how we as consumers, how can we tell if and all presents are genuinely sustainable? And then also when it comes to, as I said, things like the waste that is generated purely just through the number of presents we buy, the amount of plastic they're wrapped in, everything, how do we tell if our presents are genuinely sustainable? And as Roxy mentioned earlier, some of the greenwashing that happens to try and convince us something is very green when it's very clearly not. Do you have anything to say on that?
It's an enormous question. I think I'm going to start by answering it by saying the way how I would go about my Christmas shopping, which is I try and buy people exactly what they want. And if I buy them what I know they want, then I know it's not going to go to waste. And then I go and look at from the brands, and I buy from the good brands, the ones that I know and I trust and I've had a look into. So I think it's just about consumers taking responsibility for what they're buying and what they're doing with their money, and making sure that we're not buying just heaps and heaps of stuff for the sake of it. The things that I really dislike are joke presents for Christmas that are just going to go right in the bin afterwards. So just avoiding things like that. But it is such an enormous question, greenwashing. It's just all of this, and it's not something that I could just have a quick answer to.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So it's a huge topic, absolutely. And to come back to just as big a topic to you, Jeremy, actually, I know we were speaking about this before the event last week. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on buying actually from big business. I know this is a really specific question, but I'm really interested, of course, in corporate social responsibility. Hope I got the acronym right. Please correct me anyone but didn't. Yeah, how you navigated that, Jeremy? And I know for you, in terms of your background with Power Life, it was B2C initially, if that's right.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you two questions at once, but I guess, how have you approached that now from a B2B perspective?
Cool. So yeah, I mean, like our origin story, we did start B2C way back when, but I guess for us it was fish where the fish are swimming, and it became quickly apparent that actually there was a reasonably big market for what we're selling for corporate customers. The CSR is an interesting one though. I think it was, I forget the name of the company, but anyway, the example he gave was like the FTSE 100. It'd be like something like a FTSE 100 company's CSR budget's maybe, I don't know, a few £1 million a year, but their procurement budget is possibly several hundred million. So if you, although it feels like it's an obvious fit that if you're a social business, mission-led, socially responsible, that CSR is your natural home to find advocates for what you do within a large corporate. Actually, we've found that the decision makers for buying, certainly our type of product, are not the CSR people. They can become internal champions for what you do. And we've certainly found that in the past, that from like the biz dev point of view, B2B sales, if we can get a CSR exec manager on board, they know who to introduce us to within the organization more widely, to the person that is the decision maker to purchase our type of product for whatever event they're trying to organize or whatever corporate gifting they need. But at the end of the day, I don't know, I think it comes down to certainly quality of product, like Roxy said. It needs to stack up against whatever else the corporates are buying. There needs to be a genuine need for your product within the corporate, like I think there's a lot of awesome social enterprises, but not every social product necessarily fits within our corporate buying landscape. But having said all that, I mean, the CSR angle, if you want to call it that, the buy to give of what we do, is the thing that gets it over the line, right? Like if our product is stacked up against the competitors and we know that the quality is equal, if not better, price point is similar, the thing that converts it into a sale is, of course, the buy to give, the CSR element.
That's it. No, thank you, Jeremy. It's great
Can I
to
add to that, Jack?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, please. Of course.
So Social Values Act, which I think was 2012, I don't know, maybe Nick can confirm for me or not, whether I'm making it up, that has, what we've noticed has encouraged a whole load of corporates who wouldn't normally look at social enterprises as a kind of go-to, they're kind of having to now to fulfill their sort of CSR obligations, just like Jeremy said. So an example of this is Café Direct attended a panel hosted by Amey, A-M-E-Y, which are a huge construction company, and thanks, Nick. And they employ, they've got an ambition in their next sort of 2020 to 2030 strategy to invest X amount of money. It's a lot of money, it's millions, into social enterprises. And they do this, they've already got relationships with Royal Legion, for example, so veterans that are being employed to help make road signs, that sort of thing. But they work with a whole range of different enterprises. So it's kind of fascinating, because honestly, before being invited along to that, I wasn't aware that this was something that, in a way, procurement officers of these huge corporations are having to kind of factor in. So to the startup community attending tonight, I would say 2021, from that perspective, is looking quite positive, actually. And it's, I would say, getting into the rooms, which I'm sure between Dak and Nick and the others might be able to facilitate those kind of conversations, because they're looking for social enterprises.
That's it. Thank you, Roxy. No, it's great to have your perspective on it, and I'd love to come back to ask you another question, Roxy, if that's okay. I know I'd mentioned the introduction about supply chain, so I'm really interested to hear, actually, because from what I can imagine, there's so many complex parts for Café Direct to navigate, especially when it comes to being more sustainable. What for you, Roxy, are the biggest challenges with supply chain?
Carbon. So obviously, like lots of social enterprises, and businesses, we're aware that Scotland, indeed, our very own Scotland, is hosting. Sorry, I shouldn't take the mic too much. I know I'm going to get in trouble. But Glasgow's obviously hosting COP26 next year, and so it's really exciting, because I was having a conversation just a couple of weeks ago with someone from the Cabinet Office, who is looking at what kind of sectors within business to have represented, in this very kind of prestigious forum, which is looking a lot more positive now in the light of recent political events. And social enterprise, of course, is a hugely valuable sector to the British economy, and has a huge role to play. So Nick's put COP in the chat, but so anyway, so to go back, an example of this is that Café Direct is looking to put in a tender so that we can act as a supplier, because we've got lots of exciting projects and we'd really like to be participating, but in a meaningful way. But in order to be a supplier, we have to have signed up to science-based targets by April. And that's huge. I don't know how many of you are aware of science-based targets, but they're pretty stretching. And the aim is to try and get our overall emissions to 1.5 degrees. And then you think, I don't know, I mean, Café Direct, we're fairly big, but we're not huge. There's only 30 of us employed in the UK. Our turnover is about 2.5 million, something around there, and we invest most of that back into impact. So, but sorry, to answer your question, in terms of supply chain, it really came to light for me when we were mapping. We've just finished mapping our entire supply chain. That's from all of the co-ops that we source from, all the manufacturers that we work with. Sorry, my very high practice beagle, busy in the side there, making as much noise as possible, all the way through to consumers. And actually, Consumers Forum, sorry, I know this chat isn't about carbon, but just because it's coming up next year, I think it's something that any startup, to try and bring it back round, really, you're at an exciting point if you're just starting out to think about what your literally what your sustainability and climate strategy is going to be. And also you've got a chance, and Jeremy and Karis, I don't know if you found this too, but to kind of look at the life cycle of your products, because I think climate stories are going to be interlinked in the future with consumers' expectations of brands. You know, they'll want to know that we're sourcing responsibly, and that means people are well paid in supply chains. That means that we're not contributing to environmental degradation and so on. You know, I think that's becoming like a base minimum, which is great from my perspective. That's really heartening. So anyway, but very welcome to take questions on that, Deck.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. No, that's absolutely awesome. I'll come to Janet next, and yeah, I hope people will build on that with the Q&A. We do have a few questions already, so very much open. Is it open table? There's a word. It's phrase. I'm totally forgetting. Anyway, Janet, sorry, over to you.
No worries at all. Another one for me, and this is about some of the more controversial happenings of this year in particular. 2020 has been a year fraught with several environmental, societal, economical, it's been a lot. And there have been some really key conversations that have had to take place, that are still taking place. And one of them, for example, is the Black Lives Matter movement, amongst others as well. So from your perspectives, and I think I'll start with you on this one, Jeremy, what conversations have you taken part in this year as your organization? And are there any topics that you've actively avoided? And obviously don't feel any pressure if there's any company restrictions on this, but yeah, go for it.
Oh, sure. I think this is a really interesting one to talk about. And I think the reason that, I am happy to share about this, right? Like, I think the reason I'm always reluctant to talk about Black Lives Matter is there's outrage on like both sides of the argument. Like, even if there is two sides, like the mission of the business Power Life is to gift lights to kids in Africa, right? So like, I think like as a given, I think that says a lot about us and what we're doing and why we're doing it. But I'm always, I'm nervous to say anything because it could be interpreted like, I don't know, like I think it can be a hard one to navigate. And last time I was asked this question, I was like, I need to have a better answer to answer this thing, because it just comes across as like, I don't know what I'm saying. But no, I don't know. I think of course they matter for sure. But as a white man doing this kind of work, like I think maybe one anecdote I can give is when I was in Zimbabwe in March this year, just before lockdown, we're giving out 1,000 solar lights, biggest giving mission we've done to date. And I don't want to appear to be the white savior in any of these pictures, right? Like the way there was an expectation in the schools that we were visiting that, well, here's the visitor from abroad, he's from Europe, he's obviously going to want to stand in front of the entire school at a school assembly and give a light to every single child himself. It's like, no, like, I'm not here for the glory at all. Like, that's not how we want to be perceived. So by the end of the week, right, like, we were nervous. I've not been out in a while. And I think the charity partner weren't sure what to expect from us going out. We hadn't been out in the best part of a year, and I had done gifting at that sort of scale. But by the end of the week, we had it really, really, really slick, where we had local leaders doing the gifting, right? Like we want to empower local people to be the ones to be empowering the children with the gift of a light. And what was really exciting at the end of this was that the man that we were in the last school on the Friday, Uncle Dom was what he was called, local pastor, former lawyer, and his organization, him and his partner, I think it was his wife incidentally, they educated girls on how to make reusable sanitary products. And they had been trying for months and months and months to get into the school, and the school were just not entertaining it for some reason. But because we were there giving lights, and we were like, no, it's Uncle Dom and his wife that we would like to be the ones to do the gifting to the kids. All of a sudden, they were welcomed in with open arms, and they've now built that relationship. And yeah, as a result of the gift of a light, using local leaders to do the gifting with us, there's a whole load of other impact that's also going to be created thanks to the gift of a light. So I don't know. That's my answer to Black Lives Matter. It's not a good one. I need a better one, but hey-ho.
I don't agree with you, Jeremy. I think it's a good answer on the basis that it's an honest answer, right? So regardless how polished or not that you feel it might be. It's an honest answer from like the top of an organization. And I think a lot of the times with any of these big, heavy, hard-hitting conversations and topics, I'd like to think that that's what people want to see, honesty. Even if that honesty isn't what they want to hear, at least we'll know where you stand. And again, these things, like when you come out and speak on them, sometimes they can end your company if you don't say the right thing or do the right thing, right? So it's something that's definitely to be like, properly gone into if you're going to go into it. So yeah, I think that's really fair. Over to yourself now, Dec.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate sharing it, Jeremy. I can resonate, I guess, with the kind of white guy, that kind of sense of almost nervousness, at least on my part. So no, I really appreciate it. So we're conscious of time. We've got a couple more questions from us. I've got one for you, Karis, actually. So I'll come to you in just a second. And then we've got a quick fire. I'm talking like, TikTok, 10 seconds or less. So I think Mark should be good at that one. And then we'll come over to Nick for Q&A. So Karis, I was keen to, at least quickly, if that's okay, get your thoughts on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, because that's something that I actually love about what you guys are doing. Tell us a bit more about it. Where did your passion for SDGs come from?
Well, in the UK at least, I learned about them in school. But the reason I think they're really important is in this world, there's lots of terminology which is thrown around. I didn't even know what a social enterprise was until I was 21 years old. But I knew what a sustainable development goal was. And there's the words ethical, sustainable, all these different words. So the sustainable development goals is a way that we can unite everyone and we can all be working on the same projects using familiar terminology. And I think for me personally, I couldn't pick one social cause that I was passionate about, and that's why I didn't start something like Jeremy's Paralife, who was really passionate about education and introduced that through the Solar Light, because I wanted to support them all. And the Sustainable Development Goals, seeing them there, you can see the goals out and you can see which ones you're more passionate about, and you can learn about them in a way that's understood across organizations. It's corporations understand the Sustainable Development Goals much more than they do social enterprises. And so that's why I think it's really important to have something that unites us all in one conversation.
Mm.
Can
Wow.
I interject? Oh,
Of course.
I was just...
sorry, Dad. So I don't think Sustainable Development Goals work very well for businesses, because they were devised for countries, not businesses. So actually, as a business, it makes it quite hard to achieve any of the 17 SDGs, I would say. So I know that's slightly controversial. I don't know what Jeremy or others think of that. Just something else to add. B Corp, which is another certification that certain social enterprises are also going through. It's like a bit of a rigorous audit. But they've been working with the United Nations Global Compact to create more business-focused SDGs. Thanks, Nick. And so for businesses that are signed up to be a B Corp, you have to recertify every 3 years, and it's a massive process to go through. They look through everything: your finances, your governance structure, your environmental auditing or lack of, and so on. And then what they've done is in your own intranet. Thanks, Bailey. In your own intranet that you access if you're a B Corp, they kind of combine the SDGs for businesses with your audit. So actually it kind of streamlines the process for you, so you can really see where you're having impact. One other thing to add, sorry, I didn't realise I was so enthusiastic on this topic.
Oh, please, go for it.
So much to say. But I think the other thing, again, if you're a younger business starting out, I think you're in a really interesting space to look at reporting transparently on the impact your business is having, both positively but also negatively. Because if you're a business, generally speaking, and like Cafe Direct, we manufacture, we ship product, and people are consuming it, so we have an impact on the environment. We want to be positive, we've got ambitions, to reach net zero, but we definitely have, you know, a negative environmental impact. And I think using the SDGs in a more business, through a business lens, but reporting usefully, I would say, like where you're positively having impact and where you're negatively having impact, kind of changes, it kind of gives a more realistic picture of where you're going. And I think that encourages other businesses to do the same.
Awesome.
Wow. Actual wow. Hopefully we'll have some more time to come back to this in the Q&A, but last question from myself and Declan, quick fire round, 1 word or less, or maybe I'm not that harsh, but really quickly. What project in 2021 are you all most excited about? If you can reveal, hopefully you can, and why? Let's start with yourself, please, Karis.
For us, we're really looking forward to working with more smaller social enterprises, which is something we've been doing for the crowdfunding campaigns. We're exploring more ways that we can do that, and that's what I'm excited for.
Nice one. Jeremy?
Continuing to ramp up the gifting. So 3,100 lights arrived in Bulawayo last week. That was up from 3,000 just before lockdown. So COVID is what COVID is, and it's been painful, but we were on our way. The graph was going in the right direction for the number of lights gifted, and we're keen to get back to that in 2021.
Lush, thank you. And last but not least, Roxy.
So we've just launched internally our sustainability strategy for the next, oh my goodness, next 10 years. It's a terrible time to drop your dog. And so in 2021, as I've been mentioning, we've got some climate ambitions and partnering with other social enterprises like Toastdale, who've just launched yesterday a campaign called Rise Up, and I'll share details in the chat, but that is a fantastic sort of call to arms in the conversation run up to COP. So yeah, that's, I think, what we're looking forward to.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys. That was awesome. That's our questions. You probably see we had to delete a few to stick to time, but thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate you answering our questions. And now I'll pass over again to our man, Nick Murray. Sorry, Nick, we're a wee bit over, so please forgive us. Hope we're not got too much of a negative mark, but
it was all Nick's fault.
So we've got some questions that people have been DMing me, which is great. So we're going to go to them in a second, but I want to continue the controversy, to use an Americanism because it's Thanksgiving. Why do our panel think that being a conscious consumer is still soft? Why is like social enterprise still seen as soft? What can we do to make this less like hippie-ish? We spoke about how to sell this to your friends and family who are maybe more into convenience. Like, what's the real talk about this subject? And maybe start with Jeremy, because I know he's a hard talker too.
Appreciate it, Nick. Don't know. I mean, I don't know how controversial we want to be, right? Like, when is there an image problem with social enterprise? Open question. Don't know. Like, when we've approached funders before, like, we've not taken a penny from any social enterprise back in agency. You could say that 100%, because we don't fit their model, right? Like, we're a private limited company, limited by shares, profit for purpose, all that jazz, and we deliver our impact out with the UK. So we just don't fit the mold for a lot of these types of social funders. But when you look at, and again, this is the controversial part, and I'm speaking very flippantly because I've got very, very dear friends in awesome companies and whatnot. But when you look at when I lived in Glasgow in the tenement, there was a social enterprise that was like a community garden, right? Like, how, I don't know, but they're able to access money, whereas we're selling high-tech product and we're delivering life-changing impact to kids in Africa. You're like, well, I don't know if that's what people view as a social enterprise, which it is, right? And this is where it was hard for us at the time. I don't know. It's a question I've got, but yeah, anyway.
That wasn't the answer I wanted, Jeremy. I'm going to go to Roxy if her beagle's not jumping all over her.
No, he's distracted. You're basically asking why does social enterprise have an image problem?
Yeah, how can we flip this conversation from being niche and being seen as soft to something which is just norm?
Yeah, I think partly it's about demographics. So, you know, a lot of the movement, well, certainly from Cafe Direct's perspective, it came out of a movement, you know, 30 years ago. So we've got those kind of supporters that had other political events, other, you know, grassroots kind of campaigning networks, really, and those communities through schools and universities and churches and other faith communities, towns even, kind of identifying together with kind of quite straightforward actions. I think we're in a very complicated, busy space. I think it's much harder to communicate stories of good, and I think greenwashing is a real issue, is a real challenge. You know, when you've got Unilevers, for example, with their brands, saying that, you know, they're doing wonderful, wonderful things without all of the context, it's quite hard to find your space, I think. So one of the ways that I think we do that is through beagles. No, it's through yeah, it's all about beagles. No, it's not. Through Bailey, through collaboration and shouting at your beagles. Yeah, it would be my response to that. But yeah, no, collaboration and just savvier marketing. And there are so many brilliant, you know, purpose-led design agencies at social enterprises, for example, and being able to kind of invest and leverage, you know, these brilliant stories, like, you know, like Karis is doing. Yeah, I think we need to be more bold and bolshy about what we're doing, and maybe, yeah, that's a viewpoint.
Can I interject here? So I did my dissertation on how we get more people to support social enterprise, and something that came up which really surprised me was that there is a misconception about the quality of social enterprises. People think because you've got the social impact, the quality of your actual product therefore is a lot worse because of it's a trade-off between the two. With social enterprise, you choose the impact. With another company, you choose quality, which is just not the case. It's a complete misconception out there. And there's also misconceptions about the price as well. They seem to be a lot more expensive, but it depends if you're comparing something, social enterprise, something at Poundland made in a sweatshop. Yes, it would be. If you're comparing it to something at Marks and Spencer's, it's probably quite the same. So I think there is a lot of misconceptions about social enterprises and they're seen as soft, and I think it probably could be related to the price and quality issue, which is just not true.
Thank you. And this goes on nicely to a question from Lucy. So Lucy, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. So my question was, so I'm in the process of setting up my own business, and I really would like to know sort of whether or not you have any advice on how to sort of communicate the ethos behind your brands without coming across as a bit sort of virtuous or, I don't know, alienating people.
I can go first here. I really recommend telling your story. What has inspired you to choose this path? And I think when people hear your story, they understand your intentions and they understand why you're doing it and your vision and where you want to go with it. You won't have to worry about all the big fancy buzzwords. It will just communicate it across itself very authentically.
I've got an opposite perspective to that. I would say until you get more established, I'd be just doing some quite hard marketing and looking at your competitors as objectively as you can, so do a proper competitor review, and pay a lot of attention whilst you're in the setting up stage to your, you know, your packaging, your branding, in line with your competitors, because, you know, the more profitable and successful your business is, the more you can invest in your impact, and you know, presumably that's what you want to do. What is your business?
So I'm just in the process of launching essentially products made in Scotland using Scottish linen. So the linen is woven in Fife. But I've just launched a Christmas collection of reusable crackers and stockings and baubles. So yeah, starting point.
And is that available to buy? Is that available to buy now?
Yeah.
Yeah, bang it in the chat. Let's get that out there.
Thank you.
Jeremy, thoughts on that?
I think you need to be like authentic and tell your story. I think that certainly worked for us, is the documenting behind the scenes, the journey, gets a lot of buy-in from your crowd, from people that back what you do. So yeah, I mean, like there's a certain amount of production value behind what we do, but it's certainly we're telling our truth, right? We're telling our story, and it appeals to enough people to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a marketer myself for social enterprise, and I think you will be judged on your impact as well as your intention. And I think as soon as people can see the whites of your eyes and see what your why is, then any virtue signaling or greenwashing is kind of someone else's problem. So I love this. We've got a last question from Johnny. Johnny, can you unmute yourself and come up?
I can indeed, Nathan. Yeah, thank you very much all. I've really enjoyed this session. My question's around, well, it's a question I put to the Brewgooder guys a little while ago. I think it's a really interesting one. For-profit companies exist to make profit, but at the early stages of a startup, when you're small, you then would tend to put any profits towards growth. You don't think about dividends or anything. As a social enterprise, or particularly with that sort of focus, how do you think about balancing what percentage of profit, money earned, goes directly straight away to the cause, and what you then reinvest in marketing so that in the future you can give more? Oh, now direct it at someone. I'll go for Jeremy for first, but I'd love all your thoughts. I know actually you're for profit technically, but yeah, actually, but
sure, yeah, no, like I think, well, social enterprise, right? It's a business that makes money to do good. So for us, the gift of a solar light's factored into the cost structure. Simple as that. Each one sold is a light gifted, and then profit on top is, as you've correctly mentioned, as a startup, right? Like we're trying to grow as quickly as possible. We need to reinvest into the business to do that. But for us, I mean, yeah, delivering on the social mission, it is the brand, it is the company, it is, yeah, it's what we do. So for us, it's very simple. There's an RSP, there's a cost price, and the gift of a solar light and the impact is factored into that.
For sure.
Anyone else want to step up to that? That's quite a scary question. Roxy,
yeah, sure.
Scary questions are good questions or scary questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just segue just slightly back to Lucy for 1 second. Lucy, I know that lots of companies are looking at hosting their virtual Christmas parties, looking for sustainable cracker options like Cafe Direct. So I will be in touch on that basis. But it might be worth framing things that way for other companies that are looking to host their virtual Christmas get-togethers. And then to come back to you, Johnny, thank you. Insightful question. So Cafe Direct, like I said, because we're founded by 4 charities in the UK to reinvest money in our mission, which is to empower smallholder growers. We had, even during a period of time, which was about 8 years, where we were making a loss every single year because for all kinds of different reasons. And I think there is a sense of, longevity for social enterprises where you have to make a decision to still invest in your mission, even at an expense to your own business. I think that can come up, and that really defines you apart from all of the profit companies when that's happening. So anyway, that did happen for Cafe Direct. And we always say that we invest up to 50% of our profits into our mission. But what that's really meant is we've invested money we didn't have as profit into our mission consecutively over, like I said, about 8 years. Our ambition by 2030 is to actually create that balance into a third. So in our articles of association, when we were set up, our ambition was always to invest a third of profits into growers, a third back into the business, and a third into shareholders. So that is something, because our structure means that we haven't really benefited our shareholders and over time. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I guess when it's actually structured out like that, it's more clearly defined, even with yourself, Jeremy, as well, with the way it's set up. I was more thinking for, in instance, if it's not structured, that, as I say, if you're looking at a theoretical cash in bank of £1,000, does that just go straight into the mission, or does that go to the, to grow again? But that makes a lot of sense with things sort of defined. Yourself, Karis?
Yeah, the question just changes entirely on what your social mission is. If it's on, giving opportunities to those who are furthest from the labour market is going to be very different to a buy one, give one model. And at the moment, we're so small, we bootstrapped the whole way, and we're investing everything back into the company to grow. And we would only, expand our mission when we know we're going to be sustainable and that we can keep it up. So we bring on individuals furthest from the labour market to pack our boxes, because we know we're not going to suddenly turn around and go, oh, we can't afford you tomorrow. We know we're now at a stage where we can maintain that for the time being. So I think it's taking it and letting your social mission grow as you grow, and never being in a position where you feel like you need a massive donation right now because you might not be able to be around tomorrow. It's about being sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, are we done? Nick? Final question?
We're all done, yeah. And
Any other business?
Tweeted out all the links to the businesses we mentioned tonight, as well as the fantastic businesses we featured on our panels. So let's wrap it up, buddy.
Let's do it. Well, a massive thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been electric, to say the least. So thank you to our amazing panel, Jeremy, Karis, and Moxie, to Glamorous Assistant Nick, and most importantly to Janet, my co-host. It's been awesome, guys. We won't keep you much longer. We do have a post-event email with loads of goodies involved, so keep your eyes peeled for that, guys. All that remains is to say goodbye. So one dude, in true Zoom style, if you guys are up for it, just a wee bit of cheesiness to finish off. If you guys want to turn on your cameras and wave us goodbye, and then we'll let you get away to your Thursday evenings. Love a bit of cheesiness. I may as well. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you all next time.